In part 3 of our exit interview series, we now turn to Sunday on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I'm also a writer over the Colorado Times, which covers all things American Hockey League. I am also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a very exciting episode for you guys today. We are now moving into the Sunday portion of the exit interviews over this last weekend, and this will be part 1 of the part 2 of the Sunday series. This is our third overall part of the exit interviews that we've been going over, with tomorrow being our last portion of the series for part 4. And then on Friday, we're going to go over the Brind'amour and Don Waddell part of the, their end of season interviews. They'll be on Friday's show. But for today, we're going to be going over Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, and Jordan Martinook to see what they said at their exit interviews on Sunday. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit. To upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So, like I said, we are going to be starting our Sunday portion of the exit reviews. So this is for part 3 of our 4-part series, and like I said at the beginning, we got Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, and Jordan Martinook hearing some of their thoughts from the regular season, also playoffs, and, just the overall season as a whole, and then also talking about what's potentially next for these guys. We know, though, Sebastian Aho is locked up for a long term. Seth Jarvis is a restricted free agent going into the summer. And of course, there's always debates on whether he's going to get a bridge deal or a long-term contract. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. And then Jordan Martinook is going to be an unrestricted free agent. It's very interesting to see if the Carolina Hurricanes bring him back or does he move on. And, you're talking to, you have 2, alternate captains talking in this episode, and one's long-term. Who knows about the other one? So it's definitely going to be up in the air to see what the Hurricanes do with Jordan Martinook. But before we get into him and all that stuff, the first guy we have to talk about is Sebastian Aho, and the fact that you go back to Sunday where they were talking to him, and just, how competitive Sebastian Aho is, and the fact that it's unfortunate the way things ended for the Hurricanes. He could, you could tell in his exit interview that he seemed, he was very bitter of how the season ended, and he says for him it's going to take some time for, to come to terms with what happened. Of course, this was, over back this previous Sunday, so you're still talking, it's a couple of days where they're still trying to, get over the initial process of how the season ended, and it's going to take some time for them to try to get through it and get ready for next season. But Sebastian even said too, it definitely, in my opinion, was the best chance we've had here. I really thought we had the team. It was a very exciting time to feel that we really had a chance. I really thought until the end that this was the team that could go over that hump and go all the way. This one hurts for sure. And like I talked about over the last 2 previous episodes, other guys were talking about it too, that this one probably hurts the most. And, it's one of those things for sure where you kind of wish that the team was able to get it done. And it's just stinks when you look at it overall. And it, like we said, Brind'amour in his presser on Monday, you're just knocking on the door. You're right there. You want to get there. And for this team, and Jordan Stahl said it, all these other guys on the Hurricanes have said it too. They thought they had the team to do it. Jacob Slavin said it, and they thought they had the team to get it done. And you go through the regular season the way you do, finish 3 points out of the winning the President's Trophy. You go through the Islanders at 5, and then unfortunately just The first 3 games of the series against the Rangers don't go your way. You fight back and just ultimately just come up short, and you blow a lead. You blow a 3-1 lead, you lose 5-3 in game 6, and now your season's over in less than 20 minutes. Like, you're leading, and then all of a sudden it's done. And that's a hard process. That's a hard pill to swallow, and that's a hard process to go through, because like, you saw what the team did at the deadline. Talked about on Tuesday's show. You go out and get Jake Gensel, you go out and get Evgeny Kuznetsov, you go all in. And, every team has to fight injuries. You saw what happened to the Vancouver Canucks. They lost Brock Besser in Game 7 with the blood clot issue. Hopefully everything goes all well for him. They were even down to their third-string goaltender, and that's the last thing you want to do is to lose your top 2 goalies in the middle of a playoff chase. And now their season, unfortunately, got done on Monday. So it's just every team has to fight through injuries. And, for the Hurricanes for the second straight year, lost guys at the wrong time. Jesper Foss with his neck injury, you lose him in the last game of the season. I know I've talked about this a lot, but you also lose Brett Pesce. He broke his fibula. He's out for pretty much the rest of the Islanders series and misses the entire Rangers series. Last year they lost Andrei Svechnikov, and, the year before that they lose Frederik Andersen 2 weeks before the playoffs because he gets hurt against the Colorado Avalanche. Like I said, every team has to fight through, but there's certain injuries you just can't come back from, and it's tough. It's a tough thing to deal with, and Sebastian said it perfectly. It's the fact that you look at how the team is and how the fact that you kind of had that feeling that this was the chance to get it done. They thought they finally got the roster that could get over the hump and, go win the whole thing. And yeah, for him, it hurts. If it hurt as fans, it hurts. But also, too, is the fact that it hurts worse for the guys because you're in that room every day. You're, always fighting for each other. You have a slow start to the season. Yeah, you win the home opener. You go on the West Coast road trip. You kind of start okay. Don't really finish it the way you wanted to. Shoot out against the Kings. You lose pretty handily to the Ducks. And, you do get the job done against the Sharks, but it's still not great. And then, we all remember the Canadian trip. You go up to Western Canada, you go 0-4. You let Calgary come back and beat you in a game. You get essentially blown up by the Oilers. And, you fight back. You get a lead against the Canucks, and you lose that game too. And then, you go 0-4. You had the players only meeting, and it seems like everything turned around because, they come back and play the Ottawa Senators, and that kind of kicks off an entire run that saw them, go through December and just absolutely just have a tear and get themselves back into, a division race. And you see the penalty kill go, lights out, and the power play just goes absolutely off. So it's just, and then, you get to this trade deadline, you add some pieces, you get Frederik Andersen back because he missed over 40 games this year. And I've talked about it on other shows too. It's just, when you got everyone back, it seemed like the Hurricanes were clicking. You had the sense that this team had what it took to go all the way. And, Jake Gensel gets 25 points in 17 games. Evgeny Kuznetsov, adds a little spark of, his style. He didn't play in over a month, maybe, and he comes in, plays every other day, and does pretty well. Scores some pretty key goals for you when you need it. Even in the playoffs, you see a penalty shot goal. He does the absolute molasses style that he does and scores. And, he does what he does, gets you 4 points. Jake Gensel gets you 9 and 11. Seth Jarvis just has an otherworldly season. We'll talk about him in segment 2, but just the way that he played. And, it's, Pierre Kacheko did pretty well for, he did pretty good for most of the season. Frederik Andersen comes back, starts 7-0, goes lights out for the rest of the regular season, and has a decent start in the playoffs. But it's just, you go down 3-0, you fight back, and, you could say that there's no luck, there's no magic, but, you could almost sense that there was some magic with the team. And the fact that, you saw them come back in a couple games against the Islanders. You saw them force Game 6 against the Rangers after going down 3-0. You thought, okay, maybe we got something going on here, and just unfortunately it didn't really work out. And now you see where the team is at, and it's just, you had the feeling, it's the thing where you start the season as odds-on favorites to win the Stanley Cup. First time ever the Hurricanes were considered odds-on favorites to win the Stanley Cup at all. And just, the slow start, like I said earlier, and then you go through the rest of the regular season. You play up a fight. Try to catch the Rangers. Do as much as you can. Win some big games against them. You take care of business against teams who people thought, okay, this team's going to be tough. You go out and blow out the Vegas Golden Knights at one point. You go to Madison Square Garden. They start 2024 and you blow them out. And you're feeling good. You get a lot of guys back. You go and all in at the trade deadline, and just unfortunately, it's one of those things where the magic kind of ran out, and there's some things that kind of weren't there that you saw in the regular season, which we'll talk about more on Friday for the press conference part of what Rod Brind'amour and Don Waddell talked about, where some things kind of just you had it, and that for the most of the season and kind of lost it at the wrong time. And I agree with Sebastian. It stinks. It hurts. As fans, you had a good feeling. There were some ups and downs, but you kind of felt like that there was something with this team in the fact that you saw what they did at the deadline. You felt like, okay, this could be it. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way. And I know a lot of people are still frustrated. We're like not even a week removed from Game 6. And you're still trying to process, like, okay, the playoffs are still going on. Now we know who the conference finals are. You wish it was the Hurricanes, but it's one of those things where now you're watching, the Oilers and the Stars, you're watching Panthers, Rangers, and you wish it was the Hurricanes. It's just, I don't know. It's not a good feeling to have. Like I said, everyone's, I'd rather people have emotions, and this is not gatekeeping, but it's like you rather have some emotion and care rather than apathy, and you don't care. And that's what you had for the dark ages for the Hurricanes, that people just didn't care. And now you do care. And now it stings more because, back in the dark ages, you're talking, through that 10 years of, we know we stink, but we're still going to watch hockey because we still support our team, but our expectations are high. Now the expectations are high when you go 6 straight playoff appearances, 6 straight, first round wins, 3 division titles in a row. You get told for most of the season your odds on favorites to win the cup. This is the best, roster you see from the Carolina Hurricanes ever. And it's unfortunately, it just didn't end the way you want it to. But I think it's a good thing to care. It's a good thing to matter. And, it's okay to be frustrated, but also know that it's like, win, lose, or draw. This is your team, and you love the Carolina Hurricanes. And, it could be worse for, if you're a fan of another team who's still struggling, who hasn't made the playoffs in double-digit years, depending on who it is and stuff like that, or perpetually it's just been, in their own way for the most part. Like I said, the Hurricanes went through that phase, but now you've had 6 great years. And now you hope to be able to get over the hump. And you got to hope that sooner rather than later, everything's going to click into place. You got the right core. You got the right supporting pieces. You got the special teams you need. There's a lot of things that accumulate or cultivate, or however you want to put it, into what makes a great hockey team. And I think the Hurricanes are right there. And it's going to motivate the guys for how this season ended for next year. And of course, it depends on who's back. You could see a good majority of the team back, or you might see, maybe more new faces than you thought. But it'll be very, very interesting for sure. But it's going to take a while for everyone to process it. And I know the guys are still processing it because it's not even been a week for them. But you're talking a couple of days since the exit interviews, you can tell it's still bothering them. It's now Wednesday. The interviews were 3 days ago on Sunday, and they're still feeling it. So I don't know. I agree. You hope the guys have a great summer. You hope they can motivate them for next year and see where everything goes. So we are going to talk about Seth Jarvis and see what he thought of his season overall, and talk about some very interesting things that were revealed by him in his press conference. We'll do that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. There is no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match with their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US. The one thing that I like about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy because we get you one step closer to the hire by immediately matching you with quality candidates. Even better, Indeed's the only job site where you only pay for applications and meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is an unbelievably powerful hiring platform, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest 2019. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. Once again, that is Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back to a segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we talked about Sebastian Aho in the first, part of the show, and we're going to talk about how we're going to move it over to Seth Jarvis. And Seth Jarvis had a very, very interesting press conference for sure. But the fact this is coming off a breakout season for him, a really great year from career highs in goals with 33, assists with 34, 67 points, 13 power play goals where he had 2 combined in the first 2 seasons of his career, goes out and gets 13. Oh, and he also leads the Carolina Hurricanes in the playoffs with 5 goals. And you're talking a contract year for him, being 22 years old. He's a restricted free agent coming to the offseason. And it's definitely brought in some debates of, do you go with a 3-4 year bridge deal, or do you go with the 8-year long-term and just lock him up until he's 30? So it's going to be very interesting to see what Don Waddell and the front office wants to do. And and even Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts, not this past episode, but the episode before, where before the weekend, the big priorities for the Hurricanes were, number one was Rod Brind'amour. You take care of his contract. Well, as we now know, the contract's been taken care of, and we'll talk more about Rod Brind'amour's contract on Friday's show. But that his contract's now officially done, and his staff. So number one priority done and done for. It's been almost for Rod's been done since September. Then your next goal is take care of Seth Jarvis. Guys like Seth Jarvis don't grow in a lot of trees, and for the fact that you see how much he's progressed already in his career. Had 40 points his rookie year. Some people thought he had a sophomore slump, only got 39, but Seth has said it and Rod said it. It's the fact that he was more so focused on his defense in his sophomore year, and that's what helped him become a 200-foot two-way player, to where you saw in season 3 where he's on the power play. He's on the penalty kill. He's in every facet of whatever zone the Hurricanes are in, and he's there. That's what you saw what he did this year. Like I said, he's got 13 of his 33 goals were on the power play. 34 assists, 67. He was 3 points shy of 70 for the he hit 40. And there was a point this year we thought he could hit 70, and he was super close with it. So that tells you how good of a season Seth Jarvis had. And they talked a lot about that, but the thing that really kind of caught a lot of people's attention is the fact that he was wearing, for most of the season, he was wearing some contraption on his upper shoulder, and people were wondering what was going on through it. And the thing was that he's been hurt for 70 games for the regular season. He actually tore his labrum and his rotator cuff, and he battled it out for 70 games this season, almost 70 games. You're talking, I think it was like 65. It was in between 65 or 70 games. It was like game 15 he got hurt. And he literally tore his labrum, and he tore his rotator cuff, and still went out and had the season that he had. You want to talk about an ultimate warrior? That's what you got in Seth Jarvis, because, oh my goodness, that's insane how he was able to pull that off. Rotator cuffs in general are just hard, but he was able to go out and do what he did is mind-boggling. It just shows you how much it means to him to go win the cup and do it with this group. And the thing is, even in the playoffs, he broke his finger in the Islanders series. So he even played he even went through the playoffs with a broken finger, where he said himself it was bloody, it was gross, and he was getting his finger shot up every game. And they asked him, it's like, why didn't he take time off during the season to heal up and stuff like that? And this is what Seth Jarvis said: I'll do whatever I need to get out there. I didn't want to miss an opportunity with this kind of group. And that goes back to what Sebastian Aho said, what Jacob Slavin said, and whatever else has said. This is a really good group. This is the group that they thought they can get it done with, and Seth didn't want to miss time. He didn't want to be out and miss the opportunities. And, that tells you how much it means to go win the Stanley Cup, and that's how much it means that he wants to play hockey and, be out there and contribute. And that's how you saw a season that he had, where he had, like I said, 33 goals, 13 power play goals, 5 in the postseason, career years across the board. And that just tells you how much it matters to him. And the fact that he went through the season, a good majority of it, with a rotator cuff and a labrum that were torn, and he broke his finger in the playoffs. And they even asked him, it's like, do you need surgery? And he even said, I don't know, but I'm not a medical professional. Of course, knowing Seth Jarvis, the reporters loved it. They thought it was fun. And they even asked Rod Brind'amour and Don Waddell at their press conference about, and like, how do you feel about him saying he's not a doctor? And they're like, well, that's good. It was an understatement for sure, but it shows that, like, his personality is really good. The guys love him. He even said, like, he was quieter, surprisingly enough, when he first started. He didn't want to step on anyone's toes. And someone asked, like, you were actually quiet? And he said, yeah, essentially. And he didn't want to step on anyone's toes, but now, the team wanted him to be himself. So now he's stepping on everyone's feet. If you know Seth Jarvis, like, yeah, it kind of tracks, but it's just, that's what makes him a fan favorite in Carolina. And that's why all the guys in the locker room love him. And that's why, the fact of how much of a competitor he is. He comes out, rookie season, he's 19. People thought he was going to go back to the WHL and go play for the Portland Winterhawks. Surprises everyone, stays with the team, has a great year, has an okay sophomore season. Like I said, he was working on a lot of things. And then you come into, this season, absolutely just balls out and does what he needs to do and has a career year. And for the fact that he went through all that because he wanted to, shows his character and how good he wanted to, how good he is, and how much he just keeps getting better. And Rod said it, he's getting better, but he also wants to keep getting better. He wants to learn to keep getting better. And that's one of the reasons why the Hurricanes need to find a way to keep him. They're going to keep him. It's just, how do you want to do it for this contract? And that's going to be one of their big priorities. So big, huge congrats to Seth Jarvis on a season he had. Now, hopefully he gets better. We definitely need him ready for next season. So hopefully, give him some actual rest and all that. Plus, he's going to Finland for a couple weeks for a golf tournament and Sebastian Aho's wedding. So hopefully he gets to have some time to just relax, recoup, and heal up some of those injuries, because we definitely need him for full go next season. So that we're up the Seth Jarvis part of our X interviews. We're going to go into talking about Jordan Martinook and get his thoughts on the season and just what his future lies for the Hurricanes. We'll do that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, going at the end of the second segment, we're going to start going over to talk about Jordan Martinook and catching up with him, and the fact that, he spoke for a long time with the Hurricanes and media, and all, the Hurricane staff, and also the media as well. And the fact that how much success the team has had over the last few years through the first 82 games, and then just unfortunately in the playoffs they kind of come up a little short. But Jordan Martinook said to be a team consistently at the top of the standings is something I guess you can hang your hat on, but when you're consistently at the top of the standings, you need to get over that hump. We haven't been able to do that. And, basically, as an alternate captain, he's been basically reiterating what the other captains have been saying. Jacob Slavin, Jordan Staal, Sebastian Aho, they're all saying the same thing, is the fact that, they're a group that they knew they had the team to go over the hump. It's just they haven't been able to do that. And that's one of those things where it's frustrating for them, is the fact that you can consistently see them having great regular seasons. I've talked about for the last, few episodes, is the fact you see that you win 3 division titles in a row in the last 4 years. You go to 2 different Eastern Conference final appearances. And unfortunately, those two Eastern Conference final appearances, you don't win a game in those. You're 0 for 8 right now in the Eastern Conference Finals since, 2009. And, luckily you get out of the first round every year. And I know people want to keep throwing comparisons that the Hurricanes are like the Maple Leafs of America. No, they're not. Because let's be honest, the Hurricanes have had a lot more playoff success than the Maple Leafs. Like, the Leafs have won one playoff round in 14 plus years. So let's not get it twisted that the Hurricanes are the Maple Leafs of the United States. There's a lot of other teams who've made it in the first round and just fallen short in America compared to the Hurricanes. So that's kind of just a little I don't know about that. Because you get that success. Like, the Hurricanes have won 6 straight first rounds that they've been in. So I would kind of pump the brakes on that narrative that the Hurricanes are anywhere equivalent to what the Leafs are in terms of just falling short. Because the Hurricanes have gotten farther to do it. And that's just the thing that Jordan Martinook said. It's just, yeah, it's good that you had a great regular season. But if you're going to have a great regular season, you also have to do it in the playoffs. And unfortunately, the Hurricanes haven't got to the ultimate goal of winning a Stanley Cup. But you have seen some deep playoff runs for the most part from the Hurricanes. And they do get out of the first round. So you do get some, at least some stretches of playoff hockey where you're playing, more than just, however many you play in the first round. So it's just one of the it stinks that you just haven't gotten it done. And, Jordan Martinook just keeps basically reiterating what the other, alternate captains are saying. The fact that, yeah, you had the team to do it. Unfortunately, you just couldn't get over the hump to get it done. And even talking about, with him becoming an unrestricted free agent this year and, when they asked him about it, and of course, you get that expected answer, about what's next for him. He says, Jordan Martinook said he would love to stay here. However, the fact that there's that veteran presence that he has that, who's got that important voice in the locker room. And, every team could probably, be seeking him out. He's a sought after veteran that's been there and done that for the Hurricanes. He's 31 years old. A lot of teams would love to have that veteran presence, that veteran leadership that you see from Jordan Martinook that he's had with the team. And, it's kind of expected. Yeah, he wants to stay, but he also knows that other teams are going to look at him too. And now it just comes down to the Hurricanes want to try to bring him back. I would certainly hope so, because the fact that you saw what he did in the playoffs last year. He got 10 points against the Devils, to tie the franchise record for most points in the series. Heck, in January of 2024 alone, he had 8 goals in January. He was basically in the team in goals for the month of January. In the playoffs, he didn't have, his typical, what we saw last year, but he still had some moments. I mean, just the save alone in Game 6 against the Rangers where Lindgren shot the puck on Frederik Andersen, goes through his legs, almost goes into the net, and Jordan Stahl, luckily with how he was just, sliding his way in with that momentum, was able to catch the puck right on the line and at the time preserve the Hurricanes 3-1 lead. It could definitely have changed if that puck went in and made it 3-2, but it stayed 3-1. And the guys love him. He's always bringing the energy. You got that Mr. Svechnikov in the hallway. He's always bringing that energy. He's just that veteran presence that you have. Yeah, Jordan Stahl, Jacob Slavin, they're not the rah type guys. They're not, guys that get fired up to fire up the team. It's either they're leading by example or they got calm demeanor that the team needs. That's what they have. Sebastian Aho is a fiery guy. He plays with on a chip on his shoulder. But you look at Jordan Martinook, he's got that hype man mentality. He's got the energy. He's that guy that you're like, okay, this is your dude's gonna fire the team up. And you kind of want that on a hockey team. It goes beyond, because I know in the league, it's what have you done for me now? What are your stats and this, that, and the other? But in reality, too, there's more than just what are you doing for me on the stat sheet. There's some aspects of the game where I believe there's more than just what are you doing on the stat sheet. And yes, points matter, and what's your plus minus, time on ice. Oh, yes, that does matter. I'm not disagreeing that it doesn't matter, because it does, obviously, because you got to get the production and all that stuff. And you got to get compensated for the production that you have. But I also do think that there is that extra level of what are you doing that's not on the stat sheet? Are you doing your job? Because Rod Brind'amour said it a lot of times, even about Jordan Staal and some other guys. Yeah, they might not be hitting the score sheet, but they're doing their job that I ask of them. Are they shutting down other teams? Are they playing, hard? Are they going to the board battles? Are they getting in the dirty areas? Are they doing the things that are necessary to help fit the system that Rod Brind'amour and his coaching staff wants this team to play? And Jordan Staal does that. And he does spark some, offense when you need it. Defense when you definitely need it for sure. So for me, Jordan Martinook, outside of just he has some good stats, but he also does things off the stat sheet that matter too. And I think that's something that really needs to be more focused on. And yes, he's 31. Yes, he's an unrestricted free agent, but honestly, his veteran presence is something you need for the Hurricanes. And I'm hoping something does work. But he is right, though. The team's got to get over the hump and they got to figure it out because, regular season success is good. But the end-all be-all is got to go win the Stanley Cup. And hopefully, Jordan Martinook stays, 2 or 3 more years. And hopefully, just like with Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesce, Brady Shea, he's been here for a good long time. And we hope that he can, finish third with the rest of those guys. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Hurricanes do, and hopefully, that both sides come together and figure out a deal. And hopefully, you see number 48 back on the ice, rocking the A on the road, and you got Jordan Martinook on the Carolina Hurricanes. But that will wrap up this Wednesday episode of Locked On Hurricanes. I hope everyone enjoys their Wednesday. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on X at OneTrueZach. You can follow the podcast at LO_Hurricanes. If you click the link tree in my bio, you can find all my articles, newsletters, premium content at the Hockey Writers on there. You can check out all my American Hockey League writing over at the Calder Times. You can find links to where to listen or watch the Surgecast on podcast platforms and on YouTube. And you also can find links to where to listen to this podcast of Locked On Hurricanes, along with watching on YouTube. And if you're on the podcast side of things, make sure you leave a 5-star rating because it'll help get the podcast out more. And if you leave a review with your 5-star rating, I just might read it on the podcast. For the YouTube side of things, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, turn on all notifications so you don't miss an episode. Hit that thumbs up button to let me know you like the show because that'll help get us out more as well. And in the comment section, let me know what type of deal would you get Seth Jarvis and what type of deal would you get Jordan Martinook if you would be able to find a way to get both of those guys. Seth is an RFA. What type would you give him a bridge? Would you give him long term? And what do you think the annual average value of that contract would be? And same thing for Jordan Martinook. What kind of contract do you think would work to keep him in Carolina? So make sure in the comments to do that. And if you subscribe and share the podcast with other Hurricanes fans, hopefully they become everydayers as well, just like you. And we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're over 860. We're slowly getting to that 1,000 mark. If we do get to that 1,000 mark, I might just do something special for you guys. But like I said, hope everyone's great rest of your Wednesday. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.